A text said, "Dad, it's me, send money." Our family word exposed the imposter at the door. The message showed up on a Tuesday night when the house sounded like dishes drying. "Dad, it's me. I lost my phone. I need help." The name on the screen looked right. Ethan, because the bubble carried his nickname and a photo he once used everywhere. Baseball cap, too big grin. The summer he could not stop laughing. I stood by the sink with wet hands and a heartbeat that wanted to sprint. My son is 17. 17 is loud when it wants to be left alone and silent when it needs something fast. The text felt like both. I walked into the hall, where we keep a shoe rack that refuses to learn order. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and laundry that almost dried. The clock over the entry table said 8:41, which is when Ethan should be home from practice, sweaty and hungry, and pretending not to be either. He wasn't. The next message arrived before I could worry in full sentences. "Please don't call. I can't talk. This is my friend's number. Can you send money? I'll explain when I get home." The words stacked on top of each other like they were trying to keep me from asking the one question parents are built to ask. "Where are you?" I set the phone down long enough to picture every version of 17 that ends in sirens. Then I remembered the last 3 months. Mood swings with no forecast, a door that closed faster than it used to, a backpack that started to feel heavy with secrets. We had blamed it on school, on girls, on the way a license changes a boy's idea of distance. I had not added strangers to the list. I was about to. I opened the fridge because cold air helps me think. A container of leftover pasta stared back with the confidence of food that solves nothing. On the counter, a sheet of paper with Ethan's scrawled practice times. Mon, wed Friday 6 to 8. Argued with the clock I could read. Tuesday, not a practice day. I checked find my phone out of habit and got a gray dot. Location off. The fake calm of that little circle felt like a hand over my mouth. The next message pushed harder. "Just $300. I'll pay you back. Please don't tell Mom." The words "don't tell Mom" changed the room. That line is a match kids strike when they think fire will keep them warm. It also belongs to someone who knows how families hesitate. I looked at the photo again. Ethan's grin had a sharp edge I didn't remember. It was the same picture, but it felt like a mask. I breathed the way coaches tell you to breathe when your head fills with noise. I wrote Ethan's name on a post-it because writing makes panic hold still. Then I wrote 3 simple checks under it. Is this his number? Is he safe? Where is he supposed to be? The first was easy. It wasn't his number. The contact sat clean and new in my phone, like it had been made for tonight. The second and third would take work I did not want to do with the wrong kind of help watching. Our hallway mirror is honest in bad lighting. It showed a man who forgot to shave and a father who needed to move without shaking. I walked to Ethan's room and stood at the threshold like it could answer me. Bed unmade. Sneakers kicked under the desk. A takeout cup on the dresser with his name spelled right for once. Nothing looked stolen except the feeling that this was normal. The window was closed. The air smelled like deodorant and teenage sleep. I went back to the kitchen, where Lauren keeps a small corkboard with emergency numbers and pizza places we pretend we don't know by heart. I stared at the list and decided to be boring before I tried to be clever. I texted Coach Martin. "Ethan with you?" The reply came fast. "No Tuesday practice." "Everything okay?" The word "okay" cracked open the part of my brain that wasn't letting me think in daylight. No practice. No reason to be late. A new number asking for money. A borrowed photo. A voice that forgot how my son talks when he's scared. The next message hit like a tap on a glass you can't ignore. "Dad? I'm in trouble." It came with a payment link and a timer that started crawling down like someone had learned to turn fear into a clock. The link felt like a hand reaching into my pocket. I took a screenshot. I didn't click. I pulled out a drawer where we keep things we call junk until we need them. Tape. Pens. A small notebook with a grocery list I never finished. I wrote a sentence that sounded like a promise to myself. "We will help our son. We will not feed a stranger." Then I taped it to the counter because rules behave better when they can see themselves. The door opened at 9:06, not loudly, not like a kid who knows he's late. Ethan's footsteps moved down the hall, like someone learning where the floor creaks. He smelled like outside air and a little like gasoline, which is code for he'd been near the old truck he loves because it pretends to be free. He looked surprised to see me in the kitchen, surprised like he rehearsed another scene and walked into the wrong one. I didn't speak. I let the room do that job. The timer on my phone kept moving. a silent countdown that had nothing to do with dinner or curfew. The message thread sat open, his name on top, a picture of a boy who was here now with me in the doorway. Blinking, I picked up the phone and slid it across the counter so he could read without me narrating. He read. The color in his face did the thing colors do when truth shows up and pretends to be a different person. He rubbed the back of his neck the way he does when he's about to admit something or deny everything. The timer hit 0:37 and kept going like it owned us. My heart gave me two choices: act like a siren or act like a lock. I chose lock. I told myself one more time, silently and slowly. We will help our son. We will not feed a stranger. Then I turned the phone face down and looked at the boy who is mine. Somewhere inside that "don't tell mom." A hand I didn't know was trying to steer our house. I was going to find that hand. Ethan stood in the doorway chewing on silence. I kept my voice steady and small, like a light left on in a hallway. I asked where he'd been. He said, Jay's garage, and listed 3 details he didn't need to. What song was playing, the smell of oil, the cat that hates everyone. That's how he talks when he's telling the truth. The texts on my phone were a different kind of voice. I typed the mystery number into a free lookup site. It didn't show a person. It showed a throwaway internet line, the kind people spin up in seconds and toss when they're done. I saved the page as a picture, not because it would matter in court, but because it mattered to my head. I tapped the profile image in the chat, Ethan's old baseball photo. The pixels came from a public album we'd once shared with the family. It wasn't a selfie he'd sent tonight. It was borrowed. I scrolled the thread again and listened for my son inside the words. Ethan says, yeah, when he's scared, not please twice in a row. He writes "ick" without the apostrophe. The fake Ethan typed, I'll explain, like someone who doesn't know our shortcuts. The clock in my chest slowed down enough to make room for anger. Lauren came in from the den. Hair up, the look moms get when they hear a tone in your voice you didn't let out loud. I slid the phone to her. She read fast and then did something simple and right. She turned to Ethan and asked him to say the name of the dog he named when he was 5. He grinned despite everything and said Moose, like a password that had been waiting in our house this whole time that we stood there, 3 people and 1 lie, and decided to grow a backbone out of rules. We picked a family word that we'd never say by accident. We wrote it on a card and pinned it to the corkboard behind a recipe. From now on, if any of us ever text help, we add that word. No word, no money, no exceptions. It felt old-fashioned and sturdy, like storm windows. I typed to the fake Ethan, call me. Say the word. The bubbles never appeared. The number went quiet like it had heard its own name. Ethan's jaw clenched, and the truth finally climbed the last step up to his face. He hadn't asked for money, but he had been sloppy. He'd posted a photo of his school ID on his story last week to show off his new parking sticker. He'd also messaged from Jay's place on an open Wi-Fi with his Apple ID still signed in on a borrowed iPad. The details stacked like kindling. Teenagers make chimneys without knowing. I opened our bank app because dread is louder when you leave it alone. There they were, 2 tiny transfers from 3 days ago. $1.17 and $3 to a name I didn't recognize, dressed up like a tip to a delivery app one didn't use. Test taps, Lauren said, reading my mind. People jiggle a door before they push it open. I tapped the little info arrow. The short name behind the transfer wasn't a restaurant or a driver. It was a person's handle ending in 2 letters that made my stomach do an old memory. LK. 3 letters can carry a whole year. LK had once folded our laundry and knew where we kept spare keys. She'd left town after a messy fallout with a boyfriend in a borrowed car that wasn't borrowed. We hadn't said her name in 2 summers. The fake Ethan wrote again, as if on cue. I'm outside. Don't make me knock. That line is mean on purpose. It's written to turn your house into a movie set. My hand moved to the lock out of habit. Then I put my hand back down. I turned on the porch light. The steps were empty except for a moth testing bad ideas. The street was a picture. No one waiting. No one walking. Just that line in my pocket, trying to make us do the next stupid thing. Lauren reached under the sink for the envelope of spare SIMs we keep for trips and power outages, the kind of quiet prep that never makes it into holiday letters. We swapped Ethan's card back into his phone, turned on his Find My, and signed him out of every cloud that wasn't ours. He hated the fuss and didn't argue, which is how I knew the scare had landed in the right room. I screenshotted the 2 Tiny transfers and the "I'm outside" message and saved them in a new folder I labeled with a line I could stand to read later. Protect Ethan. I wrote the 3 things we'd do tonight on a sticky note. Freeze any new payments. Change the house code. Call Coach and Jay's parents. I pressed the note flat with a magnet shaped like a lemon. Then I did the one simple, boring thing that makes all the other brave things work. I locked every door. Upstairs, the house groaned the way wood does when you tell it you're staying. My phone buzzed again. A new text, same tone, new number. The first line made my hands go cold, not because it was clever, but because it had learned something. Dad, it's me. Don't use the code word. Just help. Somewhere, someone had realized we'd set a rule. Someone was close enough to start editing it that we changed the door code, like people change a bandage. Firm, no speeches. I watched Ethan punch in the new numbers twice until the lock answered with a clean click. Lauren called the bank and put a freeze on new transfers from our cards unless we tapped to allow. Boring safety is still safety. The kitchen felt less like a set and more like a room. Next, I walked 2 doors down to Mrs. Klein's place. She has one of those camera doorbells that notices moths and mailmen like they're celebrities. She opened in her robe and handed me her phone without asking for a story. We scrolled back an hour and there it was, a silhouette standing by our mailbox, not moving, just watching. Head down, hoodie up, the kind of stillness that wants you to fill in the blank with your worst idea. At 8:58, the figure turned, lifted a phone, and typed. A minute later, my dad, it's me, had landed. The timestamps nested together like bad twins that I saved the clip to a folder and thanked Mrs. Klein with the kind of hug neighbors pretend not to like. On the walk home, I counted porch lights. Ours looked too polite. I flipped on the side flood, the one that makes our lawn look like a stage nobody rented. Back inside, I dug through an old email archive because adults keep past versions of life without trying. I searched LK. She stared back from 3 summers ago, our former nanny, with a smile that knew our house from the inside. Photos of Ethan at the lake, marshmallow smoke, her hand in the corner of the frame holding a towel like a flag. In one album, I found a picture I hadn't noticed before. Ethan's bedroom window, open for breeze, and a caption in her voice, "My favorite little lookout." It had felt sweet then. It felt like blueprint now. I handed the laptop to Lauren. She sat very still, the way people do when anger has good aim. She knows the routines, she said quietly. Trash night. Delivery hours. Which window sticks? The words built a scaffold around the picture in my head of the figure at the mailbox, the phone glowing, our house acting like a landmark it never asked to be. I texted Coach Martin and Jay's parents. Short, direct. We had a scam, numbers spoofed, don't answer weird money texts. Please keep an eye out. Jay's mom replied with 3 words I needed. We're up now. I walked the first floor like a guard who loves the building. Windows latched. Back gate closed. I pulled the truck keys from the hook and dropped them in a drawer that doesn't rattle. Ethan followed me with his hands jammed in his hoodie pocket, eyes on the floor, the way kids look when they want to help and don't know how to be forgiven yet. I told him to feed Moose. He did, and the dog's wag wrote a different ending for this minute. My phone buzzed again. A new message. Lauren's face in the circle, the old avatar she used 2 phones ago. The text said, "Honey, send the money." It's fine. Lauren was 10 feet away, holding the dog bowl, not typing. She has never called me honey in a text. That word doesn't live in our house. Someone wasn't just borrowing Ethan's voice now. They were trying to throw a brick through our trust. I took a picture of Lauren standing there and sent it back to the fake number with nothing else. The dots didn't bubble. The line went still. That we sat at the table, the 3 of us, and made a rule you can write on a wall. No big asks by text. If it's money, it's a call or in person, and the family word goes first. If a message tells us not to use the word, that message is a stranger. Lauren opened a new note on the corkboard and wrote it in block letters. Ethan stood up and, for the first time that night, put his hand on both our shoulders like he remembered we are bigger than a screen. Before bed, I set a mug on the porch step like a decoy and tilted it so it would spill if anyone came too close. It's a small trick my dad taught me, a quiet alarm you don't have to plug in. I also tucked Mrs. Klein's doorbell clip into a folder named Front Yard and backed it up twice. The house breathed the way houses do when people inside them mean to keep it at 11:22. My phone vibrated on the nightstand. New text. Unknown number. A photo this time. The side of our house. The dark window to Ethan's room. Snapped from the hedge line like the person had stepped closer. And a caption. You're learning. So were we. I didn't sleep. I set the house to stay awake. I put a cheap camera decoy in the window and the real one low in the hedge, lens peeking through leaves where no one would think to wave. I set the porch light on a timer so it would click off and on like a heartbeat. I left the tilted mug alarm on the step and a thin line of flour along the side path. Old trick, easy to sweep. Loud in the morning, at dawn the flour told its story. 3 footprints, flat and careful, hugged the fence line. The mug was nudged and had bled a half-moon of coffee down the step. Under the box by our mailbox sat a ripped envelope addressed to L. K. Forwarding expired. Old post, new tear. I slid it into a Ziploc with the kind of calm you learn after a night like that. The hedge cam had done its job. At 11:21 p.m., a figure drifted into frame. Hoodie up, phone glow under the chin. They paused at Ethan's window, then at our mailbox, then typed with both thumbs like someone sending orders to themselves. A tattoo line curled from wrist to thumb when the sleeve slipped. Tiny detail, big relief. It wasn't a kid. It wasn't my son. I called a friend from church who hires sitters and asked, plainly, if they'd heard from LK lately. The pause on the line was long and soft. She owes us, my friend said. Money. A phone that never came back. We changed our locks. The pattern built itself. Small debts, quick exits, door codes remembered like old songs. By mid-morning, a new text landed with a new costume. This is Mr. Walsh from Student Support. Ethan's in a situation. Please send a quick verification payment so we can release him. The wording tried very hard to sound official and not quite human. A logo sat crooked above the message, the school's crest, but stretched, like someone copied it from a picture and hoped we wouldn't look too long. The number had no school exchange. It asked for a verification payment, something a real school has never asked any parent, anywhere. At any time, I dialed the actual school number from the website and asked for Mr. Walsh. He picked up with a yawn I recognized from parent nights. Ethan's in second period, he said. No situation. And we don't take money by text. Ever. I thanked him. I let my hands steady on the counter while our house took a quiet victory breath. The fake Mr. Walsh pinged again, sharper. We need it now. Don't call, it slows us down. That line is the mask slipping. Scammers hate phones because voices reveal shape. I typed back, say the family word. The dots never bubbled. Lauren slid me a sticky note with 3 words. Set a trap. It felt harsh. It felt necessary. We agreed to one rule for it. No real money. No real risk. Only bait we controlled. I texted the fake number. We can't send cash. We'll bring a card to the drop at the park. 15 minutes. I attached a picture of a gift card I'd already drained to 0. Numbers blurred except the last 2. Enough to look like an offer. Then I called our neighbor patrol officer, the one who runs before work and knows which porch lights mean what. I sent him the hedge cam clip, the footprints, the ripped LK envelope, the fake school text. He didn't promise fireworks. He promised to watch that we set our scene. I'd go to the park with the empty card. Lauren would stay home with Ethan and keep both phones open. The neighbor officer would park 2 streets over. No hero moves. Just daylight and noon energy. The fake number came back fast, benched by the old swings. Put it under the trash can liner. Don't wait. That's not school. That's someone who knows the backside of our park and the way our trash cans lean. Before I left, Ethan pressed our family word into my palm like it was a coin for luck. Say it to anyone who says my name, he said. I nodded. I took the empty card. I took my phone. I took a deep breath that felt like the house handing me my own keys back. I drove slow. The morning was clear in the way honest days are. The swings were empty, sun on the chains. A couple of crows acting like they ran Parks and Rec. I slid the useless card under the liner and sat on the far bench like a man who forgot how to stretch. A shadow detached from the trees near the path. Hoodie. Phone glow. The wrist turned and the tattoo line flashed again. Tiny wave under skin. The person bent toward the can, then paused. Phone to ear like they were taking instruction from a voice we both knew would never say our word. I stood, not fast. I said Ethan's name, and then I said the family word, clear enough to cut air. The figure flinched. Not recognition. Annoyance. And then the head turned just enough for me to see the shape of a face I remembered from summers. Older, thinner, but there. Elkishi didn't run. She did the smaller, meaner thing. She smiled like we were making this hard for no reason. Behind me, a car door eased open on the street. The neighbor officer didn't shout. He just arrived, and my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message. Same fake school number. One line, almost bored. Next time, don't bring a cop. They were not alone. Daylight has a way of stripping costumes. In the park, Officer Reed didn't reach for cuffs. He reached for details. He asked my name, Ethan's name, and wrote the time like it mattered, which it did. He took a photo of the trash can, the empty card, the tattoo line on LK's wrist. He didn't argue with her. He just said, "Tell me who you're on the phone with." She rolled her eyes and called him dramatic, which is what people say when daylight is not on their side. He checked the fake school number from my screen and shook his head. "Spoof app," he said. "Looks like a normal number." It isn't. He saved the thread to his report, asked for the hedgecam clip, and texted me a case number that felt like a seatbelt.l.k. Played small. "I'm just passing messages," she said. "People ask me to help. I help." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It never had. She backed away one step, then another, voice rising just enough to sound like a scene. When Reed told her to stay put, she bolted, not a sprint, a slip, cut behind the swings, hopped the curb, and vanished between two hedges like someone who has studied exit routes. Reed didn't chase. He radioed the direction, then did the more useful thing. He asked where the nearest store with cameras was. "The Little Mart," I said. We drove 2 blocks in his cruiser with the light off and the morning acting like nothing exciting ever happens in neighborhoods like ours. The Little Mart manager was the kind you don't need to earn. He rewound the outside cam to 10 minutes before my drop. There it was, a sedan idling under the tree by the park path. Windows up, driver's hood up, phone lit, thumbs moving. 2 minutes later, the fake school message had hit my phone. The camera caught one good frame when a branch moved, the slope of a cheek, a piercing at the brow, a beaded bracelet on the steering hand. Not LK, someone else. The person tapped the dash like they were timing our fear that we saved the clip. Reed took a still and zoomed until the license plate bracket filled the screen. A used car lot logo we both knew, Monroe Motors. He nodded. "That helps." Back home, the mailbox had decided to stop being neutral. Inside, a bank letter sat like a square of ice. "We're reviewing your application for a youth credit line." The name at the top was Ethan's. The address below it wasn't ours. It was the old daycare on Maple we used 10 years ago, the place with painted handprints on the fence. The letter gave us a reference number and a date, yesterday. Someone wasn't only after cash. They were trying to build a version of our son on paper that we spread it all on the table the way families spread puzzles. Park report. Little Mart clip, bank letter, the verification payment, text that had tried too hard. The LK envelope we found ripped near our mailbox. Lauren didn't cry. She sorted. She called the bank and said the word fraud calmly, then added, "He's a minor. He has no credit. Freeze anything with his name. Flag daycare address as not ours." The woman on the line moved fast, the way good people do when they're allowed. Ethan watched us and did something I needed. He wrote a list of the places he'd posted or signed in where a stranger could have seen too much, the parking sticker story. Jay's iPad, the camp Google Doc from summer that still shows his birthday. Team roster with parents' numbers in a public album. It wasn't a confession. It was a map. We took the map seriously. Reed texted an update. Monroe Motors had a customer who matched our beaded bracelet. The owner remembered a woman with a hoodie and eyebrow ring who liked to sit in the lot after hours using their guest Wi-Fi. He sent Reed the Wi-Fi log with timestamps that lined up with last night. The account name on the login? LK+1. A joke, a team name, or both that we filed a fraud alert with the credit bureaus for Ethan, the kind that makes it hard to open anything in his name without a phone call to us. We added a password to our bank accounts that isn't a word anyone could guess from our life. We set the phone carriers to require that password for new lines or SIM swaps. Boring, yes. Also armor. At dusk, Ethan and I drove to the daycare on Maple. The mural hadn't changed. The handprints were faded but stubborn. I walked inside and asked the director, a woman with a voice like a rocking chair, if they still had any old mail this week. She handed me a small stack with our last name. Forwarding had long since expired. On the top envelope, a return address I recognized from the bank's credit department. I took a picture and put the envelope back because keeping it felt like stealing even though someone had tried to steal I in the parking lot. Ethan stared at his hands. I didn't think about how much detail I post, he said. I thought small bits were small. I told him small bits make patterns, and patterns make keys. When we got home, a final message waited. New number, new trick. This is Monroe Motors. You've won a free detailing for your family truck. Reply with your address to schedule. Lauren laughed. One sharp note. Our truck lives in the driveway. Anyone who knows our street knows that. I replied with one line. Say the family word. Nothing bubbled. The number died that I slept hard for the first time in 2 nights. Not because it was over, but because daylight had given us shape. We had faces, a car, a Wi-Fi log, and a letter that proved someone was building a fake version of Ethan in the dark. We had our own rules pinned to the corkboard. The house felt like itself again, stubborn and awake in the morning. I would call Monroe Motors and the used car lot next door, send the park report to the school, and sit with Ethan while he locks down his accounts and removes old posts that make good keys for bad hands. And I'd ask Reed for one more thing. To run that beaded bracelet through his quiet list of regulars who pretend they are invisible, because the face in the Little Mart video had a shape I almost recognized. Not from summers, from a winter when we needed help, and someone learned our house too well. Morning put edges on everything. I called Monroe Motors first. The owner, Mr. Monroe, remembered the sedan and the beaded bracelet right away. He said the driver often sat in their lot to use the Wi-Fi and wait for a friend. When I asked what the friend looked like, he said, short hoodie, wrist tattoo that curls toward the thumb. That matched LK. The bracelet woman wasn't LK, but they belonged to the same little weather system. Next door, the auto shop manager added a piece we needed. A month back, LK came by with a woman he called Tess. Eyebrow ring, beaded bracelet. They asked if anyone needed babysitting or dog walking. He said no. They lingered, asked about guest Wi-Fi, and left. He remembered because Tess made a joke about running night shift and laughed at herself. The school sent a warning email to all parents before lunch. Clear and calm. No staff will ever ask for money by text. No verification payments. And call the school directly if anything feels off. 3 replies hit my inbox from other parents who had gotten the fake counselor message the night before. It felt ugly and helpful at the same time. Like a splinter you finally pull. Ethan sat with me at the kitchen table and locked down his world. He turned on 2-step for everything, changed every password, and deleted old posts that said too much, birthdays, team rosters, the parking sticker story. He shut off friends of friends. He cleaned out shared iPads from the list of devices. Each click was a small door closing. You could almost hear the house breathe easier. While we worked, Officer Reed sent 2 clips from the bank's outdoor camera. The same sedan rolled past the ATM Tuesday evening. Same bracelet at the wheel. 10 minutes later, our mailbox held that youth credit line letter. They weren't guessing. They were testing. Build a paper, Ethan, then start trying doors. The phone rang just after noon. Caller ID, said our bank. The voice was warm, professional, and too quick. I'm the branch manager, she said. We saw unusual activity tied to your son. Let's verify some details. Then she asked real security questions, parts of social, our street name, the last 4 of my card. My stomach went cold because this wasn't the sloppy stuff. Someone had true details that I asked her to hold and dialed the bank's main number from the website on a second phone. I asked for the branch manager by name. He came on, a man, and said he hadn't called me. At the same time, the woman on the first line said, "Sir? Still there?" The echo made it clear. Someone had spoofed our bank's number and stolen questions from somewhere they never should have been. I hung up on the fake call and stayed with the real manager. He pulled our file and found the attempted youth line from yesterday, the flag Lauren set, and, worse, a note that someone had tried to add a phone number to our contact list this morning. He froze changes on our profile and escalated to the bank's fraud team. "Come in," he said. "Bring ID. We'll harden the profile in person." We went together, Lauren, Ethan, me. In the branch, the manager set a verbal password only we know, blocked any remote changes, and printed a watch list of phrases tellers will now treat as alarms. He also showed us the contact number someone had tried to add. It ended with 77. That matched the tail of the fake counselor phone from last night. Same hands, New gloves. On the way home, we stopped at the Little Mart and asked for one more rewind. 10 minutes before the fake bank call, the sedan idled again under the same tree. The bracelet hand tapped the dash. On the passenger side, a head in a hood turned toward a phone. We grabbed the still and sent it to Reed. He replied, "Good." Building a timeline. Back at the house, the mailbox held a different kind of letter. The daycare forwarding service had returned a stack marked "Address expired." Inside was a half-completed store credit application with Ethan's name, our old daycare address, and a birthday off by one day. Close enough to trick a tired clerk, wrong enough to fail in daylight. They were stitching a version of our son out of scraps and hoping no one looked closely that we did one more round of small doors. Called our cell carrier and added a PIN for SIM changes. Turned on transaction alerts for $1 and up. Set passwords with words only our family says. Wrote down a short script to read when any official calls. "I'll call you back at your main line from your website." As the sun slid down, Mrs. Klein texted a screenshot from her doorbell cam. The sedan again, crawling past our block, slow like a looking hand. No stop this time, just a pass. That night, I wrote 2 letters. One to Ethan, short and stubborn. "You are not a puzzle to solve. You are our son. We will make this boring and safe." And one to LK, longer than she deserved, very clear. "Do not text. Do not wait by our house. Do not touch our name. Officer Reed has your case number." I didn't send the second one. I think I wrote it for me. We fell asleep early, all of us, with mugs upright and the floodlight on a timer. At 6:07 a.m., my phone buzzed with an email that sounded like a door closing from far away. Application denied. Incomplete information. The fake store credit had failed. Daycare address didn't match. Good. Then Reed rang. They'd found Tess, the bracelet, at Monroe Motors, sitting in the lot, phone lit. He asked if we could come by to identify the car from the clips. We said yes. We grabbed our keys. A new text arrived on Ethan's phone from a number we didn't know. No greeting. Just a photo of our old daycare mural, the faded handprints, shot in morning light, and one line: "See you after school." This wasn't random anymore. It was personal, aimed at the softest story we have. Monroe Motors looked the same as in the clips: sun-faded flags, a coffee pot that's always on, a row of cars pretending to be promises. Officer Reed met us by the office door and pointed to the sedan we'd seen in every video. Up close, the beaded bracelet on the driver's wrist matched our stills. The woman, Tess, sat inside, scrolling. When Reed asked her to step out, she did with the lazy confidence of someone who believes daylight means mercy. She said she was just waiting. For who? A friend. Name? Lee. We said LK out loud. She shrugged like letters were bad at testifying. LK wasn't there, but the name left a dent in the air. Reed split the questions. Tess said she didn't text anyone. She only held the spot. LK, found 2 blocks away, hoodie up, hands cold, claimed she only passed messages and that Tess handled the rest. Their stories didn't meet in the middle. They waved at each other's shadows and tried to step out of them. That on the passenger seat of the sedan sat a gift bag with tissue paper that tried too hard. Reed lifted the paper with 2 fingers. Inside were old envelopes with our last name, the daycare's Maple address, and a card from a class party years ago, a drawing of a handprint turkey with "To Ethan" in crayon. The bag wasn't cute. It was a key ring, papers with our name, carried like a pass they thought doors would accept without reading. Back at school, the principal moved faster than committees usually do. They rolled out a code word policy for all calls to parents. No staff would discuss a student by phone unless the caller said the school word first. They printed it on a single page and sent it home with every kid. They pushed the same rule to email. Any urgent message must include a school-chosen phrase that rotates weekly. Boring? Yes. Strong as a locked door. The bank gave us a teen protection packet I didn't know existed. Minor credit freeze. In-branch only changes, a verbal passphrase on file, and a bright red note on Ethan's profile that says "NO Remote Editions." They flagged the daycare address across systems. If anyone types it next to our name again, a screen will say "Stop," that we spent the evening making ordinary hard to steal. Ethan changed his voicemail greeting, so it's clearly him. We added contact photos we took that day, in our kitchen light, at our table, No old avatars for anyone to copy. We wrote one index card for the court board. If it's urgent by text, it isn't ours. Right next to it, the family word. Underlined twice. Reed called with one more clip, the parking lot where the fake bank call happened. He zoomed past the bracelet to the dash. A sticky note glowed in the reflection. 3 lines scribbled with pressure. We could read too. Call his school, verify pay, and use daycare address. The third line was partial, cut by glare. But it felt like a promise they had drafted to themselves. After SCO, the rest drowned in sunlight, IT dismissal. The little Mart camera caught Tess again, the bag with our envelopes now folded flat. She wasn't looking at the school. She was watching the side path we take on lazy days, near the old swings. She lifted her phone, waited, and didn't type. Like she was waiting for a cue that never came, because it didn't. Ethan took the front exit with a coach and 3 teammates, like a small parade. Lauren waited in the lot, where everybody waits. Daylight. Witnesses. Board safety in the shape of a minivan line that we returned home to a porch that didn't flinch. The mailbox gave us our own mail and nothing else. The court board rules looked almost pretty. We ate dinner that tasted like we'd earned it. Then a text arrived from a known number, one of Ethan's friends, saying, "Party after practice?" Normal. Good. The next text, 1 minute later, came from another number we didn't know. Same group chat name. Same avatar stolen out of thin air. Change of plan. Backgate. No parents. The fake had slipped into a teen thread like a leaf sliding into a stream. Ethan stared at his screen, then at us, and did the thing that makes all of this survivable. He put the phone down. We told Coach. We told Reed. We told the parents in the thread. The fake number got blocked by 6 houses at once. The group chat got a new name and a new photo. All the boys on the field holding up 2 fingers. Today's date in the corner. Proof of life in pixel scammers can't fake. 18912. Mrs. Klein's doorbell caught LK walking fast toward the corner. Phone to ear, the hoodie down now. Hair up, face tight. The sedan slid in from the far end of the block, slowed, didn't stop. The passenger window slid down 2 inches. A hand with a bracelet drummed the door. Then they were gone, as if taught by experience not to overstay. In places where light knows their names. I sat at the table with the gift bag photo on my phone and the handprint turkey in my head and thought about how small memories can be turned into tools when the wrong people get bored and hungry. That we had faces. We had a car. We had a bag of our life turned into a kit. And we had a house that now answered texts with questions instead of fear. Tomorrow, Reed would ask for a trespass order on LK, and we'd bring the bag contents to the station. The school would run a drill on the phone code. The bank would call with one last hardening step. A note I could hear forming in the manager's careful tone. And somewhere, Tess would realize we recognized her bracelet more quickly than she expected, because the next move came that night. Not as a text, but as a voicemail left on the house phone we almost never answered. A calm voice. New and practiced. This is child services. We need to discuss Ethan's welfare. Please call us back tonight. They were done pretending to be kids. They were going to try being authority. The voicemail wore calm like a suit. This is child services. We need to discuss Ethan's welfare. Please call us back tonight. The number looked local, the tone practiced, the timing mean. Night is when parents spend courage twice that we didn't call back. We called the real county office from their website. The on-call supervisor sounded tired in the honest way and checked our names twice. No open case. No outreach. She asked to hear the message. I played it on speaker. That's a spoof, she said. We don't ask for calls back at night. And we never ask for money. She logged it anyway and gave us their direct line with a code to reference if anyone tried this costume again. In the morning, Officer Reed met me at the station. We filed a trespass order naming LK for our block and the school perimeter. Paper doesn't keep people away by magic. It gives daylight a handle. I also handed over photos of the gift bag, the daycare mail, the sticky note reflected on Tessa's dash. Reed made copies and said the sentence I like best from people in uniforms. We'll keep eyes. The school's phone code went live at homeroom. Teachers explained it the way you teach fire drills. Simple, boring, everyone participates. The weekly phrase printed on a strip of paper, blue library. If a caller can't say it, the call ends. If an email doesn't include it, it gets ignored. The counselor forwarded us the first failed attempt within an hour. Someone asked for early pickup for Ethan and hung up when asked for the phrase. Policy had found its voice, AT lunch. The bank manager rang from a direct extension he'd written on his card. Heads up, he said. Overnight, someone tried a SIM swap on a line ending in Ethan's number. Carrier blocked it with your PIN. The request came from a retail kiosk across town with a grayscale photocopy of an ID and the signature, parental consent, scrawled in block letters like a high school play. We've flagged your profile. Expect a call from the carrier's fraud team, he added. Good job setting the PIN. We drove straight to the carrier store and asked for every lock they have. The rep toggled a port freeze, added a no-swap note that requires in-person with 2 IDs, and said a verbal passphrase you can't guess if you don't know our kitchen. He also pulled the kiosk ID. Timestamp 12:43 a.m. Denial code PIN mismatch. Camera stills available on request. He printed the request number. I slid it into our Protect Ethan folder where Practical Fear keeps its map. Back home, we cleaned the digital shelves one more round. Ethan removed recovery emails he didn't recognize from old gaming sites. Changed security questions that could be answered by anyone who scrolled his history, and added a backup number that rings my desk phone. The one scam calls always forget exists. Lauren built a shared contacts list for the 3 of us with photos we took that morning. If a number wasn't on that list, it was going to be guilty until it learned new tricks. Reed texted a still from the carrier kiosk's camera. The frame caught a ball cap, mask, and that beaded bracelet visible as the sleeve lifted. Next to the customer, a short figure in a hoodie kept their face angled down. The clerk's reflection in the plexi looked bored, not complicit. Reed captioned it. Same pair. He looped in the carrier's security. They promised to hold the full clip. Late afternoon, the counselor called us using the code Blue Library first, then invited Ethan to help write a 1-page student guide about scam texts. The kind that says don't reply, tell an adult, use your code word, never send money. He said yes. Sometimes fixing the room is how you stop being scared of it. Dinner was ordinary on purpose. We ate at the table, phones in the drawer, porch light on timer. The corkboard rules looked less like warnings and more like habits. Family word. No urgent money by text, daylight only. I slept with the house phone unplugged and myself face down, not because I'm naive, but because silence is part of armor 2 to AT 7:11 a.m. The carrier fraud team called with a clear voice and a better offer. Account level port lock. No changes without branch manager sign-off. And a standing note that any kiosk attempts trigger a call to me and Reed. Also, the agent added, we saw a second try at 4:03 a.m. at the same kiosk. Denied again. Persistence makes patterns. Patterns make arrests. By mid-morning, Reed had the kiosk clip. He sent 3 stills, and then one that made my ribs go cold, and then steady. As Tess slid a paper across the counter, a corner of the photocopy ID lifted, just enough for the camera to catch the shadow of a construction paper turkey taped to the back, the kind daycares make in November. Our handprint project, repurposed into a prop to make the copy look official. They were literally dressing their lies in our kids' art that we drove to the station. Ethan stood next to me while we signed the form to add attempted SIM swap and ID misuse to the incident report. He looked at the still of the turkey shadow and didn't look away. I told him he didn't have to see it. He said he did. There's a kind of growing up that isn't sad. It's sober. On the way home, the Little Mart manager waved us over. You should see this, he said, and pulled up last night's closing cam. The sedan rolled through the lot, then paused by the trash can. Tess tossed the gift bag, empty now. A receipt fluttered out. The wind flipped it, and the camera caught one line crisp as a classroom rule. Do not call if code word used. They weren't guessing anymore. They were taking notes on our rules that we boxed the day. Bank hardened, carrier locked, school code live, trespass filed, kiosk stills saved. We were making ordinary difficult to steal. At dusk, a final text came in on the old house number as an MMS, like someone had run out of costumes and found one more in a box. A photo of our porch, taken from the sidewalk, in daylight. And a message, you win days. We win nights. I turned the timer on the porch light off and left it on. Then I wrote one more card for the corkboard. Under all the others, nights are just days with worse lighting. Tomorrow, Reed would sit the kiosk clerk down. The bank would flag the bracelet wrist to every branch. and the school would practice the code again over the intercom until it felt silly. Silliness is a good sign. It means fear has to find new work, and somewhere, LK and Tess would learn that a porch that stays awake is harder to steal than a password. The kiosk video looked like a school play trying to pass as news. Tess slid a photocopied ID across the counter, and when the edge curled, the camera caught the construction paper turkey taped on the back, little traced fingers, Ethan's name in crayon, the year smeared by glue. The clerk tapped the glass, shook his head, and pointed to our carrier's pin mismatch screen. Tess didn't argue. She pressed her lips together, lifted the ID, and walked out with the kind of patience that mistakes practice for permission. Officer Reed filed the stills and drove the route we now knew by heart. Monroe Motors, then the park, then our block. At the lot, LK sat on the curb, hood down, hair tied back, thumb scrolling. He served her the trespass order like a fence you can fold. She read the line about school grounds, laughed once, and said, "I'm not the one who likes kids." Reed didn't blink. "Good," he said. "Stay away from them." By noon, the carrier's security team had the kiosk footage and the denial logs. A warrant for records started its slow walk. Tess showed up at the lot again after lunch, bracelet flashing while she told the same old story to a different clerk at a different storefront. This time, a patrol car rolled up while she was still pretending the copier had made a mistake. She didn't run. She tried to negotiate with words like misunderstanding and helping, but Daylight had memorized her bracelet. Reed cuffed her for attempted SIM swap and ID misuse. The sedan got towed, the lot felt bigger, and the flags over Monroe Motors actually moved in the breeze. At a school, the code word, Blue Library, got spoken over the intercom until it felt silly and safe. Ethan and the counselor finished the one-page guide for students. It said things you can tape to a fridge, don't reply, tell an adult, use your word, no money by text. The vice principal sent it to every family. We heard the ripple through our block. Porch lights flicked on early, and 3 dads nodded at each other like we were learning a drill we should have learned years ago. The last try didn't come from a hidden number or a fake badge. It came from a familiar face. At 4:10, our doorbell chime sang the note nobody trusts anymore. On the steps stood a new sitter we'd seen at church once, polite, holding a tote with our last name written in careful marker. "Lauren asked me to pick up Ethan," she said, smile tucked small like a receipt. "She said not to bother you." Behind her, parked under the elm, a car idled. You couldn't see who sat in the passenger seat, but the drum of a ring against the door panel carried, as thin as a bead against metal that I didn't open the door. I spoke through the wood that knows our hands. "Say the family word." The smile faltered. A little shrug. I wasn't given that. I shook my head and watched her weigh the math of staying. The tote shifted. Paper rasped inside. Across the street, Mrs. Klein stepped onto her porch with a watering can and a look that means company. The sitter's eyes flicked to the idling car. The engine cut. The car rolled away without a brake light. The sitter mumbled, "Wrong house," and followed like a leaf that we took the tote to the table and opened it like a bomb made of stationery. Inside, copied pages from the daycare class list, our last name highlighted. 3 gift bags with tissue, and a little script on notebook paper, written in someone's firm hand. Knock. Use Lauren's name, say. Not a big deal. If asked for the word leave, try back gate. They had started writing our rules into their plan. That's what happens when light sticks around. Lies learn your language and run out of places to hide. At tea dinner, Ethan read the script and pushed the chair back like the floor was tilting. He didn't ask why. He asked what next. We answered with the only thing that works, more daylight. Reed swung by to pick up the tote and the note. He promised a knock on the sitter's door and a call to her agency if there was one. "This stops now," he said, not loud, not dramatic. Just built that we slept with the window open an inch because trust needs air. The porch light stayed on, not as a dare, but as a habit. In the morning, the mailbox held an envelope we wanted, a bank letter stamped "No changes without in-person verification." Inside was a card with our verbal passphrase printed so we could memorize it as a family. It felt like a key and a thank you. At 1.2 hours later, the school emailed one last update. Tess and LK had been seen near campus twice. With the trespass in place, they were escorted off the property and warned. No drama, just boundary. The counselor attached a photo of the bulletin board where Ethan's student guide now lived. Blue paper, simple lines. Kids' handwriting in the margins. We use our word. I stood at the corkboard in our kitchen and read our own stack. The creed we'd been building all week. Family word first, no urgent money by text. Daylight only. If it's official. We call back from the website. Lock small doors. Make ordinary difficult to steal. The phone was quiet in a way that finally sounded like normal. And then a letter slid through with the last missing piece. A notice of attempted credit flagged and denied. Signed by a fraud analyst we'll never meet. With one line underlined in pen. Youth file protected. Night didn't have an answer to that we met LK in daylight, because daylight tells the truth without speeches. Officer Reed was there, hands relaxed, voice even. She stood at the edge of the lot by Monroe Motors, hoodie down, eyes steady like she'd finally run out of costumes. I didn't list the damage. I set the boundary. You don't text my house. You don't stand by our mailbox. You don't say my son's name. I didn't raise my voice. I said it the way you say door and mean wall. Reed handed her the trespass copy again. She skimmed, shrugged at the word school, and looked past me toward the street like she was still hunting the next easy thing. For once, it wasn't us. Tess didn't get daylight by choice. The attempted SIM swap, the ID with the daycare art, the kiosk footage, they stacked into a charge that doesn't need adjectives. Reed said there'd be a hearing, not a parade. Paper first, he said. Paper wins if you let it. Back home, we wrote our neighborhood's rules on a single page and stuck them in mail slots like flyers for a yard sale that actually matters. Code words for families and schools, no urgent money by text. Ever. Call back from the website, not the message. Lock small doors, passwords. Pins, SIMs. If the porch feels watched, tell a neighbor. Daylight only for anything that needs a pin. Mrs. Klein added one more in messy purple ink. If it feels off, we stand on our porches together. It wasn't poetry. It was better. The bank mailed a youth file protected confirmation with a red stamp that looked almost cheerful. The school taped Ethan's guide in every hallway. Kids' names at the bottom, like a group project built out of caution and pride. The carrier moved our account under a dull label only a fraud team loves. Dull is now my favorite adjective. That night I sat at the kitchen table with a pen that writes a little heavy and wrote my son a letter I didn't plan to frame. Ethan, we didn't win because we were brave. We won because we got boring on purpose. We made rules and followed them even when the fear in our ribs wanted to sprint. We used a word only we know. We checked back from sites, not texts. We put daylight on everything. You didn't cause this. You gave me a map when I needed one. You stood next to me at the counter and closed small doors until the house felt like ours again. Here's what I know now. Trust is not a feeling. It's a set of habits. We'll keep them. We'll change them if we have to. We'll tell the neighbors so their porches learn our language. If you need help, you never have to be clever. You have to say the word. Love. Dottie put the letter behind the corkboard rules, where reminders live and guilt doesn't. Lauren slid a lemon into my tea and said we should finally eat the cake that had been waiting all week in our fridge like a peace treaty. We did, standing up, stupid and happy. At 9:02 p.m., the house phone rang once and stopped. No message. No costume, just silence that felt earned. Later, I walked the porch with the light on and the mug upright. The street looked ordinary in the best way. Trash cans where they belong, a bike under a porch, Mrs. Klein watering a plant she's convinced is harder to kill than it is. I breathed like a person who had traded panic for process. Before bed, I tapped our creed straight with my finger. It read like a checklist and a promise. Family word first. No urgent money by text. Call back from the website. Lock small doors. Daylight only. Make ordinary difficult to steal. The lemons on the counter finally got zest. The dog snored like a metronome that only keeps good time. Ethan's door was closed. Not like a secret, like a kid asleep in a house that stayed awake for him. Night tried one last time to be important. It wasn't. Daylight had the last line, and it sounded like this. Our rules. Our names, our porch. Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story. We post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.